I think I said it already, call the meeting to order. Can I have a motion, please, to accept or any amendments to the agenda, and if not, to accept it as presented?
So moved.
Moved. Seconder for that? Seconded by Councillor Cole. Anyone opposed? Or sorry, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Apologies if I revert back. I chair different meetings and they all have different processes. Item 4A, February 22nd, 20, special council meeting minutes. Are there any corrections? And if not, a motion to adopt, please.
Move to adopt.
Okay, seconder for that motion by Councillor Barron. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay. Item 4A, regular council meeting from February 2022. Meeting minutes. There's no amendments. Can I please have a motion to adopt those?
So moved.
Seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, so moving on to item 7A, you will find a report from the Gatehouse Theatre initiative that we had funded from the COVID recovery funds. And it is just a report for information as to where they are at this time. So kind of a halfway check-in. Receive and file is in order, unless you have any questions.
Move, receive and file.
Seconder? Okay, did you have a question?
I was just going to say, if they have another update to come, it would just be nice to know kind of some of the numbers.
Meaning?
People.
Oh,
They're
people
doing,
numbers.
They're doing junior, like I'd be interested to see if the junior program kind of had, because those are kind of preteens, right?
Yep.
So, and the senior, just how many kids they're getting out, I guess.
Yeah, and I would just let you know that I believe Gord Oppen will be coming at a regular scheduled council meeting. So maybe we can ask him that question at that time.
Thank you.
All those in favor of receipt? Opposed? Carried. Okay, moving on to bylaws. We have item 8A, procedure amendment bylaw number 708, 2022 for fourth reading. Final reading, fourth and final reading.
So you just need us to move.
Moved? Yep.
I'll move it.
Seconder for that motion?
Second.
Any discussion on the bylaw?
Okay,
go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor Wickstrom. Unfortunately, I was not at the last meeting, so I was wondering if I could get a recap of why this change occurred. We had all agreed, initially it came before us and we agreed to change it on the for the second and third reading, I guess. And then, sorry, I missed the third reading, so I was just wondering the rationale for this change.
Yeah, and that was myself as mayor asked to reconsider to add and should be on camera whenever possible. Was just thinking about the different conversations that we've had around this table on transparency and just ask council if they would consider adding that particular line.
May I ask what would be the consequences if I didn't have my camera on? Because I do feel I'm being singled out because I'm the one who had his camera off.
I don't feel, I think there were others that didn't have their camera off, so I don't feel that you were being singled out. But I think it's just to capture etiquette when you're on camera, or sorry, when you're at a meeting, the public knows that you're at a meeting. And as far as consequences go, you know, there's, as elected officials, not a lot of consequences for a lot of our actions. And unless there's a criminal charge, we can be removed from council. So, I mean, I think you could probably gallop through a million other things to ask what are the consequences for that. I think it's just a matter of etiquette and putting it in here and that everybody try whenever possible to be on camera.
If I just one final question. So how is previous to this, we were allowed to phone in and we have done that often. So how is this different than?
Well, it's different.
We were allowed to phone in, but now I'm not allowed to be video in and see the screen and see the documents. I just don't understand that.
I guess it's
the difference?
21st century, it's just a different way. We didn't have Zoom before, we have Zoom now, and if you're participating through that means, you can certainly choose to phone in if you like.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
Um,
may I say something about that as well?
Certainly.
And I know that there's no legislative requirement for us to be compelled to be on camera. I've done my homework on it, and there's absolutely no reason except for the personal preference of some people that they like to be on camera. Those of us who maybe have reasons not to be should be free to not be going against a council decision in order to not use a camera. And I don't like to be forced to do anything. And that's what this is. This is just being, I feel like I'm being strong armed and I don't like it. And there's no compelling reason, if we're following the legislation, this addition is not in the legislation and it's not required. Just like right now, you guys aren't wearing masks. It's not required by the legislation, so you're not doing it, even though common sense and good etiquette would indicate that you should be wearing masks in there right now. But you've chosen to go by the letter of the law, and I'm going to do that on this video thing. I'll decide when I'm going to when I'm going to turn my camera on, and I'm not going to have council dictate to me on that topic. So I'm completely opposed to this. It's absolutely nothing to do with my ability to carry out my job, and we have enough regulations. So
Well, common sense and etiquette might also dictate that someone would be on camera as well. And also, if you look at a lot of things to do with us as councillors, a lot of information, especially put out by UBCM, talks about best practices. And so that's what we're trying to achieve. Did you want to say something, Councillor Downing, before I call the question? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. My sheet. Moment, sorry. Next, we've got the Harbor Rates Amendment Bylaw 709/2022 for final reading.
Move.
Seconded.
Seconded.
Okay, discussion on that? All those in favor? Opposed? Okay, that motion is carried. Okay, moving on to item 9A, old business. So as this was originally going to be a committee of the whole, and we can have a more relaxed discussion, a motion to go into a committee of the whole would be in order here, unless we want to continue with the more formal way that we are. Pardon me? Oh, sorry, that's my echo. I thought somebody said something. So did we want to just continue on a more formal process, or would somebody like to make a motion to go into a committee of the whole?
I prefer the formal process. I don't see a reason to go to committee of a whole.
Okay, that's fine. All right, then, item 9A, we'll go into council remuneration. So you have a report before you here from our CFO. And is there anything that you wanted to recap for us, or?
I think everyone had some time just to kind of read through. I kind of went from the former CFO's report and continued from kind of where he's left off. So I think the first thing to look at was if a remuneration review was required. So looking at other councillors in the province and mayors in the province, and Port McNeil's officials are paid quite a bit less than others in the area or in the province. So this to me indicates that there should be a review. And then this document also is for how do we go forward? What's the way forward to do that? So do we form a group? Do we form a committee? Do we get external consultants? And in the end, my recommendation is that we should form a committee and of local people, maybe former councillors, business people, locals who can give some local input to what's important to them in town. So I'm open to questions or comments.
Question for our CFO?
We voted at the previous meeting not to form a committee. that when we discussed this, that we pretty much knew what we wanted. And we were prepared to move forward without forming another committee. We got so darn many committees going now. And so I would be happy just to go with what we had 5 items, I think, I don't have it in front of me, that we all kind of agreed on that needed to be addressed. And that would form the basis for coming back with the costs of what benefits were going to cost and a couple of other items that were in there. And I don't have that motion, but I'm not in favor of forming another committee, I don't think.
I'll refer to our CFO on that because she did look at that motion and that's the items that are under, I think it's salary, pension, benefits, the daycare, some other things. So to our CFO, Brenda, if you'd like to make a comment on that, please.
Yeah, so that came to my attention yesterday. I wasn't aware of that, and I think it might have got overlooked in the transition between the former CFO and myself. So if those are items that you would like me to look at, I can take that back and quantify that.
Do you have an estimate at all at what that what difference that would make to our,
If I had to put a number out.
like a
it's tough to-
percentage point?
It's tough to put a number out, but I would say probably 5 to 7%, but I'd have to put some thought to it and some time to have a look.
Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Yeah, just for clarity, I did want to read the motion that we made, motion 49-20-21. Move second carried recommendation that staff report back to council on adding cell phone expenses, childcare coverage, health benefits, cost of living increase and income tax exemptions to council remuneration. So my expectation, again, we talked about a committee and I think our goal was to get a cost of those items and then we could look at it from there. So yeah, I'm not in favor of putting this out to a committee.
So
Until we have that number at least.
yesterday,
decide.
when we that came to the attention, you did bring up a particular, when I'm speaking with you in the office about the difficulty of just removing out those items.
Yeah, so I mean, really to kind of need to know the scope of what council is looking for. So when you say childcare, are we looking at a cap of childcare? Are we looking at, so if a counselor has children, do they receive the benefit? If other counselors do not have children, do we give them some sort of monetary compensation for that? How, those types of things. Cell phones. Do we reimburse you for part of the cost of your cell phone? Do we issue another cell phone? These are things that I can bring back. But if there's a bit more of a scope defined of what you're looking for.
If I may?
Did you? No,
Go ahead.
he's already spoke once.
Yeah, I
so
guess
we're-
what I was
we're-
looking,
Just a moment.
Sure.
We're going for a formal process. You've spoke once. I'll give Councillor Barron a chance, please.
What was captured in that motion, I think, was like the cost of living, the income tax. So before we came, I don't know if you know,
Yep.
the government used to give us, and then when we came on, that was gone. And I think we were trying to just figure out where that went under the old bylaw of 50% of 25 to 10, like that confusion. That booklet that you sent out is a best practice. I can see that with the committee being part of our best practices, our formal process going forward. But I would like to see for this year, I'd like to see us thinking ahead for next year. What are those allowable expenses? And I understand what you're saying, but when people come on and they're orientated, if I had small children, I should know when I first come on, hey, if you have to get childcare, that's almost more of an orientation. And then, yeah, I don't know, do you put $5,000 a year into the budget that can be used or can't be used?
Mm.
But still the actual remuneration, if we could find out what that missing piece is and a bit of a COLA so that we could get this year a bit more caught up, I think was kind of our intent going into the next election, so that those people see that it's, because a lot of people are commenting, you're not paid enough for what you do, to kind of get that catch up going. And then looking forward, because as the CAO brought up, if you have a personal cell phone and the town's reimbursing, there's FOI,
Yeah. FOI, it's
FOI
FOI-able. Yeah.
issues. And so, I mean, what I wrote down was getting the catch up done, but then this committee idea, this best practices going forward with that afterwards. If that makes sense.
So then what that will do, if the committee comes back and recommends that it's still way less,
But-
then the new council will have to,
According to that, I think what Derek just read out, and you know, you weren't familiar with that. Give us that number. Like, is it an 8% increase to give us back that that income tax loss and say CPI for the last 4 years? And maybe that gets assigned to this year and retro it back to the beginning of January. And that's this year's. And then the committee idea and the actual whole review goes forward for next year. I think we said around this table that the next council that comes in, everybody gets those benefits. Like we kind of have already said that. So that's going to have to be put into the budget for next year, that the benefits will be covered. But again, from an orientation point of view, to actually sit a new councillor down and say, hey, these are the expenses that are coverable. You know, if you're driving to Port Hardy for a meeting, you get your fuel, like actually making that a bit of a formal process.
so what I hear you saying then is doing an in-house process that ups our wage for this year, still forming a committee to have something in place for the next term, so that the next term isn't doing this, and essentially the optics always is voting yourself a raise.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Councillor,
And
is there anybody online
I
want to
think
make?
that captures what we had done in the motion.
Okay. Anybody online want to say anything before I go back to Councillor Cole?
Is there a motion on the floor right now, Mayor Wickstrom?
No, there isn't. We're just,
Okay,
that's why.
no, I'm just making sure I'm not going to speak out of turn.
No.
I would like to just get the details we were looking for in the previous motion, and just, I don't want to dump the recommendations of the CFO, but I think they need to be on hold until we get the information that we requested.
Okay. Councillor Downey? Did you want to say something?
A few, I guess I had a few thoughts here. I'm not opposed to sending it out to an independent committee to take a look at it. However, we did make the motion that was read out earlier, and I think that the intent behind council was to have a pool of information in front of us to make a decision at that point for this year and heading into the next one. And coming out of that report is where we would have made the decision as to whether to strike an additional committee. You know, if we didn't feel, or we felt there was some lack, or we had some gaps, then we would look outside to develop that. And as far, I heard the CFO ask some questions and looking for some scope. I guess maybe the simple question, you know, show of hands, do we need to define what childcare is, or do we, as Councillor Barron said, set aside a pot of money and we say, you know, we put conditions: when a meeting is held in the day, you can avail yourself of childcare reimbursement, that sort of thing, right? And that becomes just a pot of money, and childcare expenses vary between individuals and who provides that services. Some may have family and never avail themselves of it at all. But it was the COLA, the income tax benefit loss, that had immediate impact and for all purpose kind of set us behind the province. And for the past council, and that was sufficient. But I think we were looking to recapture and get that caught up for this last year in the term. So.
And also the last time there was a remuneration, it was at the 50% percentile mark. So that's the other thing to consider when our CFO returns back to us with the information. Councillor Cole, you had a comment to make?
Sorry, thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. I think my points were covered. Yeah, I just think we need to decide as soon as possible, because people are possibly considering. That's the time of year when you're considering, and if we leave this to, you know, it's rubber stamped a month before the elections, that doesn't help anyone. And yeah, it's obviously something we need to decide for the next incoming council. But yeah, I'm okay with just
Okay.
waiting for this information on the original motion. And I think if a report could highlight the best practices, and there's 3 different ways municipalities deal with cell phones, and we choose one of them, and same with childcare best practices for other councils.
Mhm.
The rest of the stuff seems pretty simple, whatever the health benefits are worth, and the rest seem pretty simple numbers.
Yeah, and electronics is fairly easy. I know the regional district provides everyone who doesn't have one with it, and you return it when you're done, or there's an option to buy back. So then it's not a taxable benefit. Okay, so we'll just have you act on that motion and return that bit of information as well with your report and anything else that you discover for us. Sure. Okay, thank you.
So maybe a motion to receive and follow the report, is that?
How about just a table the
sure.
report would be, yeah, and we'll table the report.
Second.
Pending the additional information. Okay. And are all in favor? Oh, do we have to vote for tabling? I never know. Okay, great.
Yes.
Thank you. 9B, budgetary update. Again, I will turn this over to our CFO, Brenda Johnson.
Yeah, so budgetary update. I've been spending time with the department managers. I think it's really important that I understand their budgets, where they're coming from, what they have coming up in the next couple of years, really identifying those. So I think I have most of my information together, and I'm just getting ready to put it in a form to present it to you at our next budget meeting.
Okay, any questions from our CFO's report? Go ahead, Councillor Downey.
I had a couple questions. First one, could our CFO clarify the statement regarding the GST audit? Are we in a CRA audit right now, or just clarify that line?
It was for third quarter of last year. It's a normal, I've been speaking with the auditor, and it's a normal course of business, she said, because we deal with rebates and ITCs. So I've submitted all the information. I'm still trying to get into represent a client for the town. So once I have that as well, I'll be able to communicate a bit better with her.
Okay, thank you. And the other question I had was regarding WorkSafe BC. It's that time when we do file and pay and reconcile, I guess. Have we had many changes or many changes to our rates is really what I'm curious about. So I perhaps, council, maybe what I'm asking and proposing is a motion that staff would report back to us our 5-year history of WCB rates and any events that have happened over that course of time. That's a motion.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Any discussion on that motion? Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mayor Rickson. So Councillor Downey, the intention of that would show incidents like?
Yes,
WCB
it would reveal
and
incidents.
that thing?
You actually, when you get your rate sheet in October for the next year, there's actually lines in there from WorkSafe BC assessments saying this is your time to review, make sure you're properly classified, and review to make sure all your claims are actually attributed to your proper. So it is something in a business you would do every fall when you get your new rate sheet anyways, but 5 years good.
And just to follow up, I guess, being new to this, I'm not familiar with a report like that. So would it have personal health information? Is that appropriate for a council table?
It wouldn't have personal health information. No, we wouldn't be able to look at the claims themselves.
Would just be a
You-
line item or
The
something?
WorkSafe BC just gives you a claim number, a date, and a name. I mean, and that could be taken out, but I think more what Councillor Downey is probably asking for is just to look at our 5-year, where the rates are at. Have they gone up? Have they gone down?
And typically rates would go up if we have more claims, or they just raise it
Mhm.
because they raise it.
Correct.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Thank you.
I did have a question on page 29 under addressing revenue shortfalls. I was speaking with our CFO yesterday and wanted to ask this question again here because I think council might be able to shed some light. So right now it says $440,000 under revenue shortfalls. And I thought for the harbor, we took 100,000 for the washrooms and 70,000 for the harbor project, the parking lot project, out of that particular revenue stream. I'm seeing one shaking of the head. Does anybody recall? And I guess staff could always look up the motion as
Yeah.
well.
It wasn't a motion, didn't happen. I don't recall.
We motioned the 70,000 for parking lot B. I remember seeing the bathrooms in one of the charts that we were given coming out of COVID, and I remember us having a questioning conversation. I don't actually remember if there was a motion there, but there was a motion for parking lot B to come out of there.
Okay.
And as well, I was wondering, sorry, my accounting, under each one, there's expenses. Does that mean?
It's what we've already given, I think.
Okay, so do we know what those are?
We do know what those are.
Okay,
Go ahead to our CFO.
please.
Give me 2 minutes here.
For those online who can't see the CFO, she's just looking information on her laptop. So we'll just wait a moment.
Did you want to go through each kind of heading
I
or?
just wanted to make sure that the computer and other electronic, that was the sound system for in here, the Wi-Fi, like all the things that we had to do because
Plus our desk, plus our electronics. I think.
plus our electronics is what came out of that. Because we did have some issues with the accounting of that in the very beginning. It had come out of our general operating or whatever.
So there was council devices,
Yep.
Councillor Barron's device, Mayor's device, Councillor Cole's device, some IT expenses, another council laptop, council meeting desk, community hall, electrical, and council meeting equipment.
So that's probably the sound system, would be council meeting equipment.
I can
Okay,
confirm if the sound system went in there, like I can look into the invoice. if it-
I'm not sure that we've purchased. I think we're still using this at the
Oh,
time. Yeah, I
okay.
think we might be renting until such time that we,
and then under the emergency planning and response,
So a lot of that was extra cleaning of the old school, COVID cleaning, the N95 masks is basically what's in there.
okay, and the vulnerable persons? Has that got the A-frame grant in it?
The St. John's Church.
Yep.
Yeah, is in there. Gatehouse Community, the Furnace, and the Curling Club.
So what made up the 31 though?
So there's 10,000 for the church.
Yep.
4,000 for the youth theater donation.
Right.
10,000 for the Furnace, and 7360 for the Curling Club.
Okay, but then we also have down there Gatehouse Furnace 15.
There's an additional 15 still to go,
Okay,
committed to them.
okay.
I just want to make a correction. I don't know that we're renting this. I think it just might be on loan, so I don't want anybody to misstate anything that's going out. Any other questions from?
Just one clarification there. So the 26,000 Rotary Trails scooter lane, that just hasn't been spent yet. That's allocated.
There is a file, there is paperwork. I'm
Yeah.
not sure if it's quite moving forward yet. So maybe that's something that needs to
I can
come back.
comment, it is moving forward. I know
Okay.
that Rotary was in speaking to our CAO, and I think they were also involving McElhaney because there's some engineering involved in that as well.
That's come across council's table a bunch of times, and it was always the assumption we would see some sort of design or plan
Yeah, I
for
don't
that,
think it's at that stage yet.
but we will
Yeah.
see that. Okay, thank you.
I will make sure I make a note of that, or you can make a motion if you like.
Sure.
I think we did, but you can make it again.
I'd like to make a motion that we see the design when it's ready for the seniors path at the town office, the proposed seniors path at the town office.
Okay, seconder for that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion, you wanted to say something, Councillor Mitchell? Or I
No,
thought-
actually, the only thing I wanted to say was, I'm quite pleased with the way our new CFO has jumped into the middle of the fire. You're doing a great job. Thanks.
Thanks, Counselor.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? Motion is carried.
And then do we motion for somebody to find that parking lot B?
Well, yeah, we can move that,
Connor had something to
that's
say.
actually sorry, go ahead, did you?
Sorry, Your Worship. Was that the three of you in the room in favor and the
Yes,
two
it was
online
unanimous.
opposed?
No, we're all in favor.
All in
Yeah.
favor.
It's just
Thank you.
late with the hands going up.
I think there was two things. It was 100,000 for the washroom. Where was that allocated from? If we could find a motion on that, and 1,000. So that staff look for those two items, please, if they were motioned to come, and what pot of money it was to come out of. Writing that motion down. Have you captured that motion?
Sorry, could I have that repeated, please?
To please have staff report back where the 100,000 for the washrooms, what allocation that came out of, and the 70,000 for the parking lot. Is it B? Yeah, parking lot B at the harbor. So I know that we approved those, just to find out where they came from. Please.
I have a feeling only the parking lot was actually approved to come out of COVID funds.
I
but
think so too, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that one,
I
but
think the previous CFO had suggested
Yeah.
that the washrooms come out of it, but I don't think we approved it.
all right.
Right.
Did we have a seconder for that motion? Sorry.
I'll second that.
Good. Any questions on it? All those in favor? Opposed, carried. Thank you. Okay,
I have one more question.
sorry, go ahead. Yeah, and then Councillor Cole's next.
Just regarding the fire department, we show the revenue, and I have my screen on watching the meeting, so I don't have my screen with my agenda, so this may be out of order. Fire department shows revenue. My question is, are the revenues net or gross? Are they gross revenues that were given in that document, or are they net of expenses?
No, they're gross.
Question, Councillor Cole?
Thank you. For the CFO, I'm just wondering when we can expect to be presented with the operating budget.
Yeah, I'm hoping next meeting I'll have something for you.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Great, then moving on to, there are no items from in camera to be made public, but I would like a motion, please, to recess and to go in camera under section 91K. And then we'll resume and report out after that.
So moved.
Moved, seconded for that motion? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. So then a motion, or so we'll recess now then. Motion to recess. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Okay, so into in camera. Yes. Sorry, to staff?
Sorry there. I'll just ask everyone online to exit the current Zoom meeting and log back in under the in-camera link.
Oh, right, okay, please.
Thank you.
See you back shortly under the in-camera link.